Hello, boys and girls, and welcome again to Science in the Kitchen. Today, our focus is the sun and the water cycle. So for our investigation for the sun and the water cycle, let's go ahead and look at the materials that we are going to be using. Okay, so first, we are going to need our plastic jugs. So I got 2 plastic jugs, and right now you'll see why we have 2. The other item that I have is blue food coloring to represent the ocean, our blue water, okay? The other thing that we have is salt. Now, why are we using salt? Because in the ocean, there is salt water. So we're gonna have salt. We need our spoon, we need our measuring cup, and we need our black permanent marker. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. For this investigation, we are going to prepare 2 cups of water with half a cup of salt to represent our ocean. So let me go ahead and get the water. Okay, so now that we have our water, we have 2 cups of water, I'm gonna go ahead and add our food coloring already. And I am going to stir to make our water blue. The next thing that we're gonna go ahead and do is we're going to add our half a cup of salt. 2 cups of water equals 500 milliliters. And half a cup of salt equals 10 milliliters. So if we were in the science lab, we would be using our beakers and our graduated cylinders. But in this case, we're in the kitchen, we're using cups. So we're going to go ahead and just stir until all of our salt has dissolved. The next step that we're going to do is I am going to try my very best to put equal amounts of water in both containers. So approximately 1 cup of water in each. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna start pouring. Oops, making a mess here. Slowly. Let's see. Nope, a little bit more. Tiny bit more. And it looks like I'm at the 1 cup mark. So the rest, I'm gonna go ahead and pour it in the other one. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab, so I don't stain my counter, I'm gonna grab a Clorox wipe and clean this up. Whoop, kind of stained it, but it'll go away. Keep clean. Clorox cleans. Okay, so our next step is we're going to cover each container tightly. Now, on each container, what we're going to do with our black permanent marker, we are going to mark the start line of where the water is. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this at eye level so we can go ahead and mark our containers. Now, what should we do? Doesn't look so even. So I'm gonna pour some of this one in here. Let's try to make this a little bit more equal to each other. Let's see there. How does that look? Better, right? So now let's go ahead and do that again. Close it tightly. And I'm going to go ahead and mark where our water is at. And the next one as well. Okay, so what we're going to do with these two waters, we're going to go outside and we're gonna put one in the sun and the other one in the shade. Let's go outside. Okay, so now that we are outside, we're trying to find a sunny spot outside. So the best sunny spot that I have here outside my house is right up here. So I'm gonna place this jug up here. And we're gonna come back tomorrow and the next day to see what happens in our containers. So now we're gonna go ahead and put this one in the shade. Come this way. This one, we're gonna go ahead and place it down here. And we're gonna put this one in the shade. And we'll come back and we'll see what happens in the next 2 days.
The next day.
Hi boys and girls. We are back again. Now we're at day 2 and we're looking at our jug of water that we put out in the sun. Remember, our topic is the sun and the water cycle. So we put out this jug here in the sun. So let's go ahead, take a little bit closer look at where our water line is now. Our water line did get a little bit lower. Okay, so I'm gonna mark this one day 1, the first one that we did. That was this one right here. And then this one, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna mark it day 2. But I want us to take a look. I'm gonna bring it a little bit closer. Look at what happened in the bottle. This is where it spilled yesterday. So I need to take that off. But if you take a look on the inside, what do you see? Look at the top on the inside right here. Inside, we see a lot of, and what do we call that? We call that condensation. So what's happening here is that the water, because it's in the sun is heating the water, and the sun is making the water evaporate. So as the water is evaporating and rises to the top of the bottle, and inside of the bottle, it's condensing, it's grabbing on to the surface of the bottle on the inside. Okay, so that's a condensation. So eventually all this condensation should come back down to the water and what we would call precipitation. So this is the one that's in the sun. So we're gonna leave this here for another day and see tomorrow if there's anything different. Let's go ahead and look at the one that's in the shade. Do you think that there's gonna be a difference between the one in the sun to the one in the shade? Let's go ahead and look. So, let's take a look at the one in the shade. Let the water settle. I moved it. And let's see if there's a difference. I'm going to draw that line again. And it looks very similar. So this one is day 2, this one that I just drew. So that's day 2. This one was day 1. Okay. Now, if I take a look inside the bottle, all of this is on the inside. Look, I'm going like this, and this is all on the inside. So all of this condensation, you can even see that it's blue. The condensation here, the droplets are much bigger. The bottle is not as foggy as the other one. This one does have a clearer view of what's going on in the inside. The condensation is not as much as the one that is in the sun, but there is still some condensation because it's outside. There is some heat, but it's not in direct sunlight. So we do have condensation, and this condensation is going down. So it is going back to the water as precipitation, but it's dripping down the bottle, and you can see where it's going back down. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and leave this here in the shade again, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll check out the one in the sun again, and we'll check out the one here in the shade, and we'll see if there's a difference from today to tomorrow. Okay, see you tomorrow.
24 hours later.
Okay, hi boys and girls, and now we're back with our water cycle, and we already are on day 3. This is our last day. We're looking at how our jugs of water are doing in the one that's in the sun compared to the one that's in the shade. So I'm looking at the water line to see if there was any change really in the water line, and it doesn't really look like that there was any change, that there was less, but it looks like that there is more than it did have in day 1. It looks similar to day 2, but what I do notice in the jug inside is a lot of condensation. There is so many water droplets, a lot of condensation throughout the jug itself. So there is a lot of condensation happening on the inside. Now, what is happening with that condensation? It is going back down to the water, to the collection, and that is coming down back as precipitation. So remember, our water cycle is that the water evaporates and then condenses, condensation, and then precipitation. Okay, so this is the bottle that's in the sun. So we're gonna go ahead and finish this off and make sure that we can pay attention and notice the difference between this one and the one in the shade. So let's go ahead and look at the one in the shade. So let's see, the one in the shade. The water line looks very similar to day 2. There hasn't really been any change there. But if I notice inside of the container, there is dry water droplets. Now, it's all dry. I don't see really that many new water droplets except a very few. So I have one right here, one, and I have some here as well. So if you can tell where we drew the previous time, there is still some more water droplets here. And those water droplets, remember, is a form of condensation. And it's going to eventually go down as precipitation. So now if we compare these two water bottles, let's go ahead and put them side to side. And let's look at the comparison. So out of these two water bottles, these two jugs, which one has the most condensation? Was it the one in the sun or the one in the shade? So now if we really look at this, it does look like that the one in the sun has a lot of condensation, that there was a lot of evaporation causing the condensation to happen. Now, what do we need to remember about that? The one in the sun, what is making the water cycle run? Remember, the key thing for the water cycle is our sun. So the sun is what is causing the interaction in the water cycle. Okay, boys and girls, I'm going to leave you at that, and then I'll be seeing you next time.